Live from the RTDS studios, this is Mental Health Matters with your host, Dr. Peter Andrew Sacco. Most people today carry with them a boatload of worries, concerns, anxieties, and stresses, which make them feel like they're sinking, even drowning. Are you one of them? Are you looking for answers, ideas, or just want someone to listen to you so you can vent? Join Dr. Sacco as he discusses what matters most, issues that surround the mind. He gets to the heart of the matter when it comes to issues involving anger, depression, addictions, fear, anxiety, relationships, sex, abuse, bullying, and everything concerning you. Here's your host, Dr. Peter Sacco.
You can live your life lonely.
Welcome to Mental Health Matters, where the matters in your mind matter most to us. And we've got a great show today. As always, with me is my producer and co-host, Todd Miller. How are you doing, Todd?
I am doing great. Really excited about today's guest.
Yes, we've got the one, the only, probably the most sought after author and international lecturer in the entire world, Jack Canfield. And for those that go, that name kind of sounds familiar, Jack is most commonly known as one of the co-creators, along with Mark Victor Hansen, of Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he's also been big time with books like The Success Principles and definitely The Secret, which was also a movie. So, Todd, I think we're going to hear a lot about this law of attraction today.
Yeah. Kind of aside here. I mean, I have the Success Principles on every format except, I believe, 8-track. I don't know. It's everywhere, and a great resource. And I have one specific question I want to ask Jack about the success principles and things like the law of attraction. And we've been talking about it over the past couple of weeks. Even last week's show, I think I was paraphrasing you, and I said, thoughts become things. Everything is energy. And what you put out, you get back. I mean, there are so many of these little catchphrases that you can use, but, a lot of people are starting to believe that, everything starts with the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts become words oftentimes, and those words have the power to create or destroy. And myself, I have had the great fortunes of knowing Jack Canfield from the past, having spoken with him, gotten to know him in the past. And I must say, if I look at the people at the top of my list who have had a profound or tremendous influence on the way I think, or have kind of refurbished and refreshed the ability of my mind and how it functions more at a different level today, I'd have to attribute it to Jack Canfield. He's one of those guys. And, I remember Jack said, what you're thinking about most often is what you're, in essence, bringing into your life, whether you're doing it intentionally or not.
Yeah, I remember seeing him, 6 years ago, maybe more, on TV. He came up to Vancouver. I think it was Vicky Gabbro. I'm not sure. He did a show with her, and I was mesmerized by this man. I mean, passionate, persuasive, calm, cool, collected, authoritative. You just sort of look at him and hear what he has to say and say, yeah, I need to go down this path. This is for me.
Yeah, he's got a tremendous demeanor about him. He's got this wonderful charisma and this amazing energy of aura that just penetrates off of him. And I know, for those that don't know his story, or if you've ever listened to him, one of his mentors was W. Clement Stone, who at the time of his death in the United States, I think it was back towards the end of the last century. Stone, I believe he lived to be like 100 or something, but he was, I believe, the wealthiest man in the United States at the time of his death. And he was actually the one that put Jack onto a lot of the law of attraction and setting intentions, setting goals, and then visualizing them, feeling them as coming to being, and then eventually attaining them.
I believe Jack started off as a high school teacher. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong with high school, being a high school teacher for your life, but I think he kind of knew deep down that there were bigger things for him, different challenges, and that probably that meeting with W. Clement Stone was one of those. Wow, was that coincident, or was that coincidence, or was it fate?
Yeah, and I think if we go back, the last decade, which we're only 3 years into this one, a mid-decade, this is where the books like The Secret and other stuff like Definitely, and it's always been around Wayne Dyer's stuff on intention setting, and and Deepak Chopra, I'm not going to leave out, and Tony Robbins beforehand really set the table for The Secret, I think, which really took off, I guess, and it really kind of redefined the way that we look at the law of attraction and the law of intention. And I know Jack did some other cool books right thereafter. I believe one was The Aladdin Factor beforehand, which looks at how you attract things into your life. And the problem is that so many of us, we focus on what we don't want or the conflictual part of our life. And I remember Jack saying, you've got to get clear, clean and clear what you really want. And that's what you go by. That's what you set as your intention. So I guess that takes us to our first break, Todd. And when we come back, we're going to be with the one and only Jack Canfield.
You are listening to Mental Health Matters on Radio That Doesn't Suck and RTDS.ca. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Sacco, and welcome to my new book. Right now, Enough is Enough, Making Addictions a Lasting Thing of the Past. This new book will help you overcome addictions and bad habits for good in 30 days or less. This book is for anyone who suffers from addiction, contends with bad habits, possesses negative thinking patterns, or is held captive by their addictive personality. Information and methods in this book for treating addictions and habits have taken me a decade to put together, compiling information, insights, and ideas from recovering alcoholics, substance abusers, addiction sufferers, mental health sufferers, and world-leading practitioners in addictions and mental health. These principles, when applied, have a tremendous success rate. In fact, in 30 days or less, you will see a new you. So once you apply the principles in this book, you will have definitely moved onto your own personal road to recovery and finding the you that you have always been looking for. Get it today. Right now, Enough is Enough. Overcoming addictions and bad habits for good in 30 days or less. And check out the website right now, enoughisenough.com.
You're listening to Mental Health Matters with your host, Dr. Peter Sacco, on RadioThatDoesn'tSuck.com and RTDS.ca.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters, where the matters of your mind matter most to us. And as promised, awesome, totally awesome guest today, probably one of the greatest mentors in my life, Jack Canfield. Welcome to the show, Jack.
My pleasure, Peter. Thanks for having me.
So, Jack, a lot of listeners, all big fans of the book The Secret, definitely Chicken Soup for the Soul, and definitely your success principles. So I guess the first question I'd love to ask you is, what would you consider the greatest success principle that you believe to be true about yourself?
Well, I think, the problem with trying to say anytime you say the greatest or the only one is like asking if you only had one organ in your body that you could keep, which one would it be? Your lungs, your heart, your kidney, your stomach. Obviously, without all of them, you'd die. So it's really an interplay between, it's a system, like a combination lock. You need all the numbers to get the lock open. But I think the one that's guided me the most in my life is take 100% responsibility for your life and your results. The idea that we have to give up blaming, we have to give up complaining. It's easy to blame our parents, the society, the culture, the president, the prime minister, whoever it might be, for our problems. We tend to blame the Chinese, the Saudis for the oil prices, and that's what's affecting the economy. But the reality is, we are responsible for our own experience. And I teach a formula called E plus R equals O. Events happen in life. You have a response to those events, that's the R. And that equals the outcomes you get, called how you feel, how abundant you are, how healthy you are, how wealthy you are. And so if you're not getting the outcomes you want, we can't change the events in the world. The only thing we can do is change our response. And that's where this whole focus of mental health comes in. We can change our thoughts. We can change our beliefs. We can change our behaviors. By changing our thoughts and our beliefs, we can ultimately change our emotions. And when we do that, we can then start creating whatever experience we want in life: joy, happiness, abundance, deep relationships, etc.
Yeah, excellent. Since the book The Secret and your book The Key to Living the Law of Attraction, Jack, do you believe that the methods for setting intentions and law of attraction have become more widely accepted and practiced in the world, or is there still that cynical, skeptical domain?
Well, there's always going to be cynical, skeptical people out there, but I think the majority of people, whether it's through The Secret, through watching Oprah, through all the movies that have come out since then, the talk shows, the hundreds of books, thousands of seminars, and websites that have sprung up around the world, it's absolutely now part of the culture. I have, in the last year, given workshops in Russia and Sweden and Norway and Dubai and Vietnam and Thailand and all around the world. And we know now that The Secret is the #1 best-selling DVD in China. Literally billions of copies sold in the country of China. So, I mean, it's amazing what has happened around the world, has taken off and become part of the language. You see people now will say, I LOA'd it, which means I law of attraction did. And so it's literally, I think, part of the zeitgeist, part of the mental belief system that we now have. Obviously, that's not everybody, but I think it's the majority of anyone who's paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Jack, if somebody was listening for the very first time to this whole concept of the law of attraction, and there's like, okay, I'm hearing this for the first time, or they've heard it before, and they say, I really want to see results. If you were to give a recommendation or an insight into achieving maximum results in the fastest way, what would be the fastest way to tap into the law of attraction for somebody listening?
Well, let's just review what the law of attraction is for any listeners who might not be aware of it. The law of attraction simply says what you think about, focus on, believe, read about, watch on TV, where you put your awareness and your thoughts, and feel strongly about. Then what happens is you're going to bring more of that about in your life. You're going to attract that, in the sense that like attracts like, that vibrational matches move toward each other. Happy people tend to hang out with happy people. Sad people tend to hang out with other people who are depressed and sad. So basically, as I raise my, we call it vibration, my emotional state from depression, from anxiety, from fear, from kind of just boredom, etc., up into excitement and love and passion and forgiveness and joy and abundance, focusing on those things, reading about those things, affirming those things, etc. Then what happens is I start to attract more of that into my life. We say that what you are grateful for, what you think about, you get more of. So if I'm sitting talking about how much everyone's a pain in the neck, I'm actually going to have more people in my life that are pains in the neck. If I focus on how good things are, focus on the things I'm grateful for, look at my spouse and focus on the things I appreciate rather than the things that irritate me, those things actually expand. So what we think about expands in our life. Now, how do I activate that more effectively to get more results, as you're asking? I need to do a number of things. Number one, I need to totally believe I can have what I want. I have to focus on, get really clear, what is it I want, believe it's possible. And then I need to maintain a high emotional state. We do that through meditation, through affirmations, through visualization, through reading uplifting material, listening to radio shows like yours, listening to CDs, listening to positive music. All those things are ways of raising my vibration so that once I decide what I want, my unconscious can focus on that, and I have space in my life through meditation, I'll start getting ideas, I'll start attracting opportunities, I'll start having insights that will lead me to where I want to go. Now, ultimately, the last step is you have to act. Insight and affirmation and visualization without action is delusion. So we see a lot of people, they think the law of attraction, simply sit and meditate and be happy all the time and everything will come to you. You do have to go out and meet the boat.
There is some work involved, I take it.
Yeah, I always say that the last 6 letters of the word attraction are A-C-T-I-O-N. I think there's a clue in there.
So with that said, Jack, why is it that some people can manifest their biggest dreams so fast, so often, while many have difficulty with the smallest of their intentions?
Well, I think that what happens is a lot of people have issues that have not been dealt with. For example, if you have limiting and negative beliefs that you've not confronted, that's going to affect you. If you have, basically what I say is life, it depends on 3 things: your mindset, your skill sets, and your environments. So you're talking a lot about mindset, and we're talking today about that. What are my beliefs? What are my positive expectations? Do I expect my life to be positive, or do I expect to have difficulties? Do I go around saying, I'm not smart enough, I'm not attractive enough, nobody likes me, my parents were alcoholics, I didn't get a good education, blaming, complaining, etc.? Or is my mindset one that's positive, that's filled with conviction and belief and self-esteem and so forth? And if it's not, we have to take responsibility to do practices and exercises, everything on the extreme end, from therapy, EFT tapping. There's so many techniques out there, Sedona method, Byron Katie's work, meditation, etc., so that I get my mindset in the proper place. That's why it's useful to have a coach, to have an accountability partner, to have someone like a community or a mastermind group you work with that can reflect back to you and help keep you on track. The second thing a lot of people miss is they don't have the skill sets they need. If you're going to be a musician, you have to learn to play your instrument. If you're going to be a businessman or woman, you have to learn business. You have to learn enrollment. You have to learn finance. You have to learn sales, marketing, etc. So a lot of people are missing the skill levels they need. They're not up to speed, if you were. And we know that you can have talent, but without developing that talent with discipline and practice, you don't have the ability to produce the results you want. The last thing is environments. Is our environment conducive? Both environments are made up of 9 things. We won't go into all of them, but your friends, your physical environment, is that conducive? Does it bring you... Well, I say, does your physical environment inspire you? When you walk in, do you go, I'm home, or I'm at my office, this is great, I'm ready to work, I'm ready to relax? Or does it expire you, bring you down? Your friends, same kind of thing. Is there art in your environment? Is there music in your environment? What kind of books do you read? All those things impact your consciousness, and we as individuals we're the only animal really on the planet that has the ability to change our environment. We can intentionally change the color of the walls. We can study feng shui. We can learn to play positive, uplifting music like Rocky and Chariots of Fire to inspire us. Animals can't do that. We're an animal, obviously, but other animals. So basically, we have to be responsible for our mindset, develop our skill sets, and improve our environments to support us.
One thing, Jack, and I've gotten asked this a lot, I guess, as a psychologist with a background in cognitive behavioral therapy, is, it's the great idea of possibility thinking, positive thinking, and setting intentions. And then I'll get asked by somebody or some people, especially if they're not, believers in, let's say, God or a higher power, and they'll say, okay, Pete, what is this principle that brings things into your life? So, Jack, for those listening, when you're talking about the universe or the ability of some divine genie or whatever it is to bring things in your life, how would you explain that to them?
Well, I think there are 2 things that are true, and here's how I answer that. First, I start with the internal experience. We know, even if you said there is no God, there is no universal, force, there's no law of attraction, etc., the fact is, when you do all the things that we talk about in the law of attraction, we talk about visualization, affirmations, goal setting, being clear about what you want, being in touch with your purpose, having a positive expectation, being grateful, etc. All of those things actually program your own subconscious mind to actually start noticing things in your environment that can solve your problems. We've all had the experience of, buying a new car, and then the next day we see 500 of them on the road. Or we have an appliance break, and we look in the newspaper, and there's sales. 3 different companies are having sales on refrigerators that day. We go, wow, I'm lucky. Well, every day somebody's having a sale on refrigerators. The fact is, we don't see it. It's a blind spot called a scotoma in psychology. When we start to visualize and affirm that which we want and focus on and believe we can have it, we actually retrain our ability, our reticular activating system in the brain, which acts like a filter that filters out everything that doesn't match our beliefs and doesn't focus on achieving our goals. When we attune our subconscious through affirmations, visualizations, goal setting, etc., what happens is that we start seeing things that were always in our environment. There's a famous video on YouTube. People can go, just type in gorilla video, and you'll literally see a group of kids playing basketball, and they ask you to focus on the kids in the white T-shirts and count how many times they throw the basketball at each other. And in the middle of this video, a person in a gorilla outfit comes out right in the middle of them, stops, beats his chest, and then walks off. And then you ask people at the end of the video, which lasts about 1:38 seconds, how many of you saw a gorilla? 75% of the people didn't see it. The gorilla was there, but they were so focused on counting the white, the kids in the white T-shirts and how many times they're passing the basketball, they miss it. And so when we're focused on what we call our beliefs about the way reality is, we actually miss all the opportunities that are in our environment that are already there. Whether we attracted them or not, they're there. So that's the first thing. As far as the law of attraction and how it works, there is this quantum physics, and you can study quantum physics, which is where all this comes from. The idea that when our mind is focused on something, it actually has an effect on the molecules of the universe in terms of my vibration focusing on having that matches the vibration of that thing existing in the universe, and either I'll be attracted to it or it will be attracted to me. And I have hundreds of stories of my own and students that prove this happens over and over. Not only do ideas show up, people show up. You end up sitting next to people on an airplane who have the solution to your problem, and it's miraculous. Probably need Albert Einstein here to explain the physics of it. I'm not a great quantum physicist, but for me, it's kind of like I don't understand how electricity works, but I've never been afraid to turn on the light switch and have the lights come on in my office or turn on my computer. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, I don't understand it, so I better not use it."
So you're actually living proof that it does work.
Yeah, let me give you a quick example. Mark Victor Hansen and I, when Chicken Soup for the Soul came out, he's the co-author of the books, we set a goal after a couple years of super success with the books that we wanted to sell 1 million books in one day. And so we started using all the principles of the law of attraction. We started visualizing it. We talked about it. We believed it was possible. We started acting as if it was going to happen. And we started bragging about it to people that we were going to make this come about. And so every day we would close our eyes and visualize headlines that says, co-authors sell 1 million books in one day. We had ideas start to come, like maybe it'll happen on QVC or Home Shopping Network. How would we make that happen? Ideas started to emerge. But what did happen? I was on a bus 30 days later, and we talk about a 30-day principle, that if you do this technique for 30 days in a row without missing one day, something kind of clicks at that point. There's a lot of research on that, which we can go into later if you want. Anyway, I'm sitting on a bus at a conference of booksellers in Chicago, and I'm coming back, like the buses that take you back from the convention center to the hotel. And I sit down, this lady turns to me and says, "You're Jack Canfield." And at first I thought, wow, I'm famous. She recognized me. Then she said, "You're wearing a name tag." So a little bit of an ego bust. And then she said, "You're the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, right?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "What are you and Mark up to these days?" I said, "Well, we just set a goal to sell 1 million books in one day." And as soon as I said that, she said, "I can help you do that." I said, "Really? How's that?" She said, "I'm the buyer for the W.H. Smith bookstores, which are the bookstores that are in most airports in America." Said, "You have over 60 co-authors of all your books." By that time we did, different co-authors for different books that helped us. And she said, "We could put them all in different airports and do book signings in the morning and then fly them, like from Boston to Chicago. They could do a book signing in the afternoon and then maybe fly them to San Francisco and they could do a book signing at night. We could cover all the airports in America. I bet we could sell 1 million books in one day, and we'll get an airline partner, we'll get a hotel partner." She just had this whole thing just come right out of her. Now, you can say I was lucky that happened. I say that was the law of attraction, attracting the exact person that I needed in order to pull that goal off into my life.
So, Jack, for somebody listening, and they were to say, "Okay, gee, I wonder how often that Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen actually meditate or visualize their intentions daily." How often would you say it would, or how much time spent?
I would say when we first started out, when we first learned all this stuff, we did 3 times a day. First thing in the morning when you get up, after you go to the bathroom, sit, visualize for 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it takes, to get a real strong image of the vision. And usually I'm working on more than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goals, so I go through them one at a time. I might have them on 3x5 cards at the beginning of the year to remind me by after a couple months I don't need them anymore. And I just see them like movies. There we are looking at the bookstore window full of Chicken Soup books, or there we are walking across the stage receiving an award, whatever it might be that we're focused on, or looking at my bank balance, saying $8 million in my retirement account. And then I would do it again at noon, because we get off focus during the middle of the day, and then I would do it again before I went to bed. today, 30 years later, I mostly just do it in the morning. And so, that's just, my days are very full, and I have a lot of family life, etc. And I think the longer you do it, you don't need to do it as often, because what begins to happen, as soon as you have a thought, an intention, a goal, it just automatically kind of takes over in your head, and you just walk around in that space of, this is going to happen, I can see it. So it doesn't require quite the same discipline. Just like when you learn to play the piano, you have to play scales, and it's very awkward. Then after a while, you just think the music, and it comes out like a jazz pianist.
Mm-hmm. Jack, we have a lot of listeners that have mental health issues, but a lot of the mental health issues are concurrent. They kind of center around addictions. What is your opinion on the law of attraction if applied to overcoming addictions?
I think it's very important, because the law of attraction, again, says what you think about, mostly you're going to bring about. Most people, when they're dealing with addictions, tend to think about quitting smoking, quitting drinking, quitting smoking marijuana, or doing cocaine or gambling or whatever it might be. So when you're thinking that, when you're thinking about quitting something, you're focusing on the something that you want to quit. And law of attraction says, don't focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. It's a big issue. People will go, well, I don't want to be poor. Well, where's their energy? Poor. I don't want that to happen. They're focusing on the thing they don't want to happen. So what we teach when it comes to addictions or any kind of habit that you'd like to break is to focus on what it would look like on the other side. So what would sobriety look like? What would non-addiction look like? How would I be in a social situation without alcohol when everyone else is drinking? Or how would I be at Thanksgiving when the family's, all drinking wine? Focus on the joy I would have, not the lack of the stimulation that I need to get over my anxiety because I don't have a drink in me, but to really focus on the benefits of sobriety, what sobriety would look like, how it would feel. This is very important when people are visualizing. It's not just how it would look, but how it would feel, and then generate that feeling in your body right now. When you do that, your subconscious mind starts to figure out again how it can bring about that experience. One of the things we do, I'm actually working on a book right now called The 30-Day Sobriety Solution with a friend of mine named Dave Andrews, who's a sobriety expert who read my book, The Success Principles, took many of those principles and created his 30-day sobriety system. Now we're putting it into a book form. It's currently just as a website called thesobrietysolution.com. And what we are doing in that book is we're putting lots of stories of people who have been successfully sober, because a lot of people that are, like, let's just take alcoholism, for example, they really feel that if they stopped drinking, life would be boring, they wouldn't have any fun, they'd be nervous at parties, they would have to experience this pain that the alcohol numbs out. And we have a whole chapter in the book about people that are celebrities who don't drink. I think it's 6 out of the top 10 actors in the world, top grossing actors of all time, like Morgan Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson, Eddie Murphy, Tom Cruise. These are people that had been alcoholics and quit, and their careers took off after they quit. And so Samuel L. Jackson literally changed his name from Sam Jackson to Samuel L. Jackson after he quit to say to himself in the world, I'm not who I used to be. I am a new person. I don't even have the same name anymore. So by having these positive images of people that are having fun, exciting, dynamic lives without alcohol, and then putting yourself into that movie, if you will, this is a very powerful way to use law of attraction for overcoming addiction.
Absolutely, Jack. I totally agree. I've done work in that area, and it absolutely works. One of the things that I'm interested in getting your opinion on, because I get asked this a lot, especially in interviews I've done, is this sense of entitlement that North Americans, Canadians, Americans live with today. What is your view on this? Is this like a law of attraction thing with some people where they just believe that they can come and take because they're attracted to whatever it is they want?
Well, I think entitlement's an interesting issue. We've done a lot of work with that. I actually developed a program for people that were on welfare, and we got over 435,000 people in California off welfare with this program called the Goals Program. And all the people that we started to work with, the majority of them were entitled. They grew up. Entitlement is often what I call a habit. If you grow up on welfare, your mom was on welfare, your father was on welfare, all you know is welfare. If you grew up in a wealthy family where your father made you work in the business when you were a kid, like in a restaurant or any kind of company, that's what you grew up with. That was your habit. And so what happens is we have a lot of rich kids today that are growing up in families where everything's given to them. We have a lot of people on welfare. So, both ends of the continuum have this expectation that someone else is going to take care of me. I think the belief that I deserve to have an abundant life, the belief that I am worthy of success, abundance, food, medical care, good things, that's healthy. The belief that I deserve it without working for it, that's not healthy. And so we have to make that distinction. I love that my daughter has grown up with a lot of abundance in her life. She also has a job right now working in a parking lot taking money as people come out. She's 18, and it's in between the semesters before community college starts. So she knows that just because she grew up in a family where her parents could take her to Hawaii for spring break doesn't mean that that's going to continue forever, that she has to be on her own at some point. So it's this importance that she knows, and she's used to having good things. She wants good things, but she also knows that she has to work for it. So I think this idea that affirmation, law of attraction without action is delusion, as you mentioned, is right on. I also believe that action without having a clear vision of what I want and a belief that I deserve to have it also can go off kilter because it's not aligned with one's highest goals, one's highest purpose, one's highest values.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Jack, for those that, like myself, that buy your books, read your books religiously, what are some of the new things you've got coming out besides the 30-day sobriety book? Any other things like immediately coming out people can be looking for?
Well, we have a book that just came out recently this year called Tapping into Ultimate Success. I don't know if you're familiar with EFT tapping.
Yep.
But it is a very powerful protocol that's been developed. It started out as something called the 5-minute phobia cure. And I started using it in my seminars, and I could take 500 people in a seminar, and we'll maybe have 150 of them have phobias, and within 15 minutes they're all gone. People can get on airplanes, they can be around fires, spiders, heights, whatever it is they've been phobic of. So we know that this, and the way it works is you tap on these what are called acupressure points, or they're on the meridian lines from acupuncture in China, that whole approach to medicine. There are 7 points that you tap on while you focus on your fear, or while you focus on a limiting belief like I'm not smart enough, or the world's a hostile place, or God doesn't love me, or whatever it might be that's stopping you from being successful. What you do is you tap on these 7 points as you repeat the phrase I'm not lovable, or whatever it might be, and over time that feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 goes down to a 1 or a 0 and eventually disappears. We've seen it happen in 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes several sessions, of 20 minutes each. But we've been able to disappear pretty much any block, any limiting belief, any trauma, low self-esteem, whatever that someone might have, using this technique. So I teamed up with Pamela Bruner, who's an EFT tapping expert, and we wrote a book called Tapping into Ultimate Success, How to Overcome Any Obstacle and Skyrocket Your Results Using EFT Tapping. And we took my book, The Success Principles, which you mentioned earlier, which has 64 principles of success in it, and we took each one of those principles and addressed every one of the resistances that comes up to help people overcome, taking 100% responsibility, using visualization, taking action, persevering, asking for feedback, whatever it might be that they need to do to become more successful, and apply tapping to it. So that's the thing I'm most excited about right now, that and the fact that we have a train-the-trainer program. We're training people currently from 47 countries to do the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's interested in that or any of my books or programs can just go to jackcanfield.com. That's CAN as in LEFIELD.com. And there are coaching programs, our Inner Circle Club, all that stuff is listed, and people can find out about it.
That's awesome, Jack. And before we let you go, which I don't want to let you go, if you could share one word of wisdom with our listeners, what would that be to get their lives jump-started and turned around in a direction that they want to go?
Well, to do what they're doing by listening to this show, make a commitment to study success, study happiness, study joy, study financial abundance, study the things you want to be experiencing in your life. There are thousands of books, hundreds of programs, audios, radio shows, TV shows, websites, etc. All these things we're talking about are not taught in school. Much more important to me, I think, than the history of 1812 or the war of whatever. And I think that since they're not taught in school, we have to take responsibility for learning these things ourselves. So, keep reforming your mind by reading, listening, meditating, visualizing, and then taking action.
Jack, my friend, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on our show. Myself and Todd are just eternally grateful here.
Oh, my pleasure, Peter. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share what I know.
Thank you, Jack.
You are listening to Mental Health Matters on Radio That Doesn't Suck and rtds.ca. We'll be right back after this short break.
I love it.